Hey everyone, hope you're doing good. Today I wanted to talk just a little bit about thermostats. I recently did a video on some of the types of heat sources you can use. Now today I wanted to show you guys what I recommend as far as thermostats to be able to control those different various types of heat sources when it comes to heating your enclosures or your racks or whatever you're using to actually house your ball python. So stick around. Hey everyone, welcome back. There are many different types of thermostats that I have used, and some of them that I will no longer use. And I have reasons for this. I've learned with my keeping and with lots and lots of research on which types of thermostats work well, and those that aren't really safe, at least in my eyes. I did want to preface this that all of the thermostats that I'm going to be going over today are my own. There's no sponsorship or anything like that on any of the thermostats that I'm reviewing with you guys, and these are just my recommendations. I will put links in the description below to where you guys can find these thermostats if you want to get one of these for yourself, as far as the ones that I recommend. But I'm just going to review three that I actually have here right now that I use in my daily operation with my reptile room and everything like that, and on some of my actual enclosures that are in my other room. And then I'm going to give also a recommendation for one that I don't physically have, but I've done a lot of research on it as an alternative, depending on where your budget is and what your needs are, because each of these thermostats offers different types of features, and that's the biggest determining factor when it comes to getting a thermostat. The first thermostat that I'm going to talk about, it's on the bottom of the expense list. This is probably one of the cheapest that I can recommend and that I use on almost all of my racks, is the Inkbird. It's the ITC 608. It comes with the ability of having two independent units connected to it, so I can actually hook two different rack sources up to this with two independent probes. The reason why I chose this and the other two that I'm going to review, or recommend more than review, because there's plenty of reviews for these out there, I recommend because of their safety features. This particular one, and I'm going to show you a picture of this, you're probably not going to know what you're looking at first, but that is the switch. That's the relay that is actually inside of this unit that turns on and off the power. That particular relay has a safety feature in it to where it will fail in the off position, meaning that if for whatever reason that relay were to actually go bad, it will always go bad with the power off. And that is important when it comes to heating anything for our reptiles. If you have heat tape attached and something fails in the on position, then even though the thermostat will read temperatures as they're climbing and set off alarms and everything like that, the power will keep being fed to the device that's plugged in. if the failure is in the off position, it actually cuts the power. Again, alarms, because this does have the capability of having alarms set. I can't hear the alarms myself, but I have my Alexa actually set up to pick up alarms in the room, and it sends me notifications that way. The other unit that I'm going to recommend at the end of this, which I don't physically have, actually has Wi-Fi capabilities built into it, and it's also made by Inkbird and has 2 plugs in it, but it's a little bit less powerful. Now, this particular unit can actually house up to like 500, I think it's 500 or 700 watts per channel. I'll double check that for you guys. But that basically means you can put up a almost an entire rack from ARS onto one of these and not have to worry about it when it comes to overpowering the circuit, because the ARS racks use 4-inch heat tape, and 4-inch heat tape is approximately 9 watts per foot maximum draw. So you're not going to draw the full amount on this at any given point in time. The one thing with this is, unlike the other two that I recommend, this is an on-off type of thermostat. It's a 2 set point thermostat. Means you're setting your low point and you're setting a high point. So you want the temperature to be between those 2 points of temperature. Say you want a hot spot area of 90 degrees, you may set it at 89 to 91, and it will turn on until it reaches that maximum, and then it'll turn off, and it'll stay off until it reaches the minimum, then go back on. So there's going to be a range when it comes to how it heats. The other nice thing about this is the probes are removable. If you remove a probe from the unit, the whole unit will reset itself. And that is by design as a failsafe. It will make sure that both of these are turned off as well. So if a probe comes out or if a probe becomes damaged for whatever reason, that power source that it controls will not function. The other nifty thing on this particular unit is you can also get it with a hydrometer. So you can actually have a, if you have something that needs a fogging system or a misting system, you can actually set that on here and set your humidity range instead of your temperature range. So this is multifunctional in that respect there. And you can get these right on Amazon. They run around $55–$60. And you can get them either in the 2 probe, heat probe configuration, or 1 heat probe and 1 humidity probe for around that same price. You can also buy just the individual probes themselves. They only cost like $10 a piece. So this is my go-to when it comes to most of my racks and everything, because it's affordable, it works, it gives the set point type of control, which for the most part that works perfectly fine for my reptile room. I keep everything for my ambient temperatures at around 75 degrees year round, so I don't have to really worry about too much fluctuation in any of my racks that I use. And I don't need super precise precision. However, if I were to, say, be breeding boas or something like that, and I need a more precise, I need it at this temperature all the time, I might go with one of my other 2 options to set things as a single point temperature rate. And as you can actually see, I have a couple of what I'm going to be talking about next sitting right here, because I do have a couple of boas in here, and I like to keep them at a more precise level. So the next one that I'm going to talk about, and we're going up in price at the same time, is going to be from Vivarium Electronics from Reptile Basics. This is the VE200. I normally don't recommend the 100 for most people, cost-wise and functionality-wise, feature-wise, the one from Inkbird is going to give you everything that the VE100 would give you as well. This is the single probe version. I know it says 200 on it, but that's just the model. It's not how many probes or connections this can hold. But this can hold one probe with enough connection for up to 700 watts. Now, when I say 700 watts, and this is for any of them, that's maximum load. The current protection that's in these, that's in any of them, is not going to let you actually run sustained maximum load, because there are fault circuits in there to make sure that you don't overdraw on the power. So you can easily run 600, 650 watts of sustained load onto one of these without a problem. So this can control an entire larger rack without a problem in most situations, and you're not going to have to worry about it. These run around $120 a piece, and they're normally available right on Reptile Basics website. It does come with one detachable sensor. The sensor is a little bit different than the other ones, as it has the old telephone style of plug when it comes to plugging into the thing. And the probe is a little bit thicker, but it works exactly the same. That's one of the reasons why I don't use these for too much, is because that probe is thicker than going with the probes on most of these other ones, as I tear apart the boxes here, which are a lot thinner and more even with the cable. I like these a lot better, personally speaking. That's just me. But this offers a feature that the Inkbird one does not, and that is pulse proportional and dimming capabilities. So pulse proportional is, it's going to get it to a certain temperature, and then it's going to pulse the power to provide the heat in a pulsing manner, like little micro pulses, so on and off rapidly to keep the heat at a certain level, or dimming, which is kind of like a dimming switch. You turn it all the way up to get it super bright, you turn it down to get it very low. These have the dimming capability to where it'll get it to the ideal set point temperature that you set. Say you set your hot point at 91, it will get it to 91 via what it senses on the temperature probe, and then it will dial down or dim the power down to maintain that particular temperature that you set. So like the other one from Inkbird being a dual point system, this is a single point system. You set the temperature you want, not a range, but the exact temperature you want, and then you select your mode. This also does support just standard on-off mode if you want to use it that way. Generally speaking, I don't. Something like the Inkbird is much more suitable for that type of application, and it's a little bit cheaper in at the same time. But I have no problem with these. These have a similar protection circuit to the Inkbird. It's a little bit more advanced because it does allow for dimming features through that particular relay. But the relay, and again, I'll show you another picture here, the relay that is in these units, it will fail in the off position, just like the Inkbird ones will. This will also cut the power to whatever is plugged into it if the sensor goes bad. So you don't have to worry about runaway temperatures if the probe fails. So it has those fail safes in them. And I'm talking about these fail safes because a lot of the cheaper alternatives that are normally recommended as beginner types of thermostats don't offer these types of protection. When they fail, they can very easily fuse or fail in the on position instead of being able to fail always in the off position, which means power can still be provided to your heat tape and stuff like that. So if there's ever a failure in the in the actual probe or anything like that, those units could fail in the on position. Say your heat tape goes bad. Heat tape doesn't last forever. If the heat tape shorts out for whatever reason and fails, it doesn't trip anything on the unit itself for that particular relay. It can fuse in that on position, continuing to supply more and more power, and then you can have a fire or melting and everything of the sort. Not saying that these units don't fail, but when they do fail, they have that safety of making sure that the power is not continuing to flow when they do fail. The last unit that I recommend to people, and the most expensive at around 150 to 160 for the base model, is the Herbstack. This is pretty much the go-to for most breeders and reptile enthusiasts. It's kind of like the gold standard here. This is a Herbstat 1. Theirs are very easy to understand as far as how many devices they support. They have Herbstat 1, supports one heating element or one device with the probe. Herbstat 2s will do 2. Herbstat 4s will do 4, and Herbstat 6s will do 6. Nice thing about the Herbstats is they do have a version that has the ability to connect wirelessly to your phone and everything like that through a Spiderweb Connect. I personally don't have those, but if you are a Husbandry.pro user, you can actually link that Spiderweb feature right to your Husbandry.pro account if you have that proper tier, to where you can actually have all of that tracking of your temperatures and everything like that right in Husbandry.pro. Nifty little feature. I use the Herbstats on my incubators for it. It's just a preference. I know many people who use the VE ones on their incubators. The big catch or key when it comes to using the for the incubators is that you have that dimming capability. You don't want to have that on off like what the Inkbird does, because that's too much of a fluctuation in the temperature. You want that very precise control. The Inkbird one, you could set a 90-degree temperature as your low, but you have to have at least a 91 to a 92. There needs to be some sort of a set point range in order for it to function properly. And the tighter the range, the more often that relay is going to be clicking on, then off, then on, then off. So you're eventually going to have just wear and tear, failure when it comes to that. So using something like the Herbstats or the VE with the dimming, especially with incubators, is really important. So those are the three that I normally recommend to anyone that I'm talking to when it comes to them wanting to do an enclosure setup or anything like that. And it's all based on their needs. If they need something to where they need to have dimming capability, say they have a CHE, a ceramic heat emitter, and they want to be able to have something like that on the top as well as a heat mat on the bottom if they're doing a glass enclosure, then I'm going to recommend a Herbstat 2, to where they have the dual probe capabilities and have the 2 points. But if they have just a normal heat pad underneath and say a radiant heat panel on the upper side or something to that effect, using a Inkbird one would be perfectly fine. Or if you want to control 2 separate enclosures that maybe both have the heat emitters, then you can actually control 2 enclosures for relatively an inexpensive price, being at around the $60 price point with that particular Inkbird. Now, the one last one that I'm going to recommend, and here's a picture of it here. It's another Inkbird thermostat. Looks a little funky, and it's a little bit cheaper. It runs at around $35, and it does control 2 devices. Very, very, very similar to this one. It actually uses the same style of probes. They're just at a 90-degree angle. They use just like a standard headset jack plug to plug in, but they're just at a 90-degree angle on the one that's pictured here. With that particular one, the biggest difference for that one is it's only 250 watts max per channel. So each plug can only support up to 250 watts. So it's meant for more low-end usage. The relay that is inside of it, most of it is in either Japanese or Korean or something, a language that I have no idea how to read, even with using translation. But from what I gathered from reading the technical specifications, it is a completely closed circuit relay, and it does also have that feature of being UL listed and failing in the off position as well, but I can't guarantee that off from just that one document itself, but based off from the specifications, it should also fail in the off position. And I don't see why it wouldn't when it comes to the product line that Inkbird actually produces. So I'm fairly confident that it follows their same general guidelines there. They also recommend this in some of their product descriptions for using it for reptile enclosures and the like. But it comes again with the 2 probes, so you can control 2 different elements or 2 different sources at the same time. The biggest catch is it's only rated for that lower 250 watt range. So you could have an easy 150 watt ceramic heat emitting bulb or something to that effect, or even heat tape, because the heat tape will only end up running on most enclosures maybe 30 or 40 watts max. So you have options there. But I do recommend that one as well as an alternative, especially if you're on a budget and you need something that will give you support. And again, these are US devices. Unfortunately, I don't have access to anything that would be used or available specifically across seas, so I do apologize there. But if you have any questions, please do put the questions in the comments below, and let me know what you think. What are your preferred types of devices, or why? Again, I like these particular devices because they offer that additional safety features that some of the other types of devices that are like the jump start style devices that are like this, which I do have a couple of. Those don't have the safety relay in there. So if they fail, they have a very high potential failing in the on position just as much as failing in the off position because of the way the circuit is designed. They're cheaper, so they don't have the more expensive relays in them. It's what that give and take as far as that goes. So if you liked this, please do hit that like button. It does help a lot for me to know on what I'm presenting to you guys. If you like what I'm talking about and things like that. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and click that notification button, as that'll let you know when I do put up new videos. I tend to put up new videos every Monday, as well as various shorts throughout the week. So until next time, I'm Jack. and this is Python Addiction.